we close out today chapter 26, a chapter that's full, packed with advice on how to deal with life's challenges, with the curveballs that are sent our way. Nothing is on even keel. Nothing is so easy in life that we should be able to arouse the hidden love in our soul to connect to God and not to be disconnected, or to own our own understanding and appreciation and the greatness of Hashem and feed that to our heart. Why? Because, as we learned yesterday, sometimes we can have essential things in life that are distressing, cause anxiety, bring us down. And then we're not able to have the joy that we need, the simcha that we need in order to be able to wage the battle in ourselves. So yesterday we spoke about those things that are coming from the hand of heaven. And since it's coming from the hand of heaven, everything is good, even when we don't perceive it as such. It's a greater good, as we explained yesterday. And we need the wherewithal. The Alter Rebbe gave us the reframing of how to see the things that we have no control over. We have no control over if the winds outside blow in such a way that they bring really devastating, difficult things in health, family matters, and livelihood. Even if it came through the means of a third party, we don't have control of that. And this is what we spoke at great length yesterday. For those who missed it, always get it again. Go to my YouTube station. You can get a lot of stuff there. Tanya Rabbi on YouTube. Please subscribe. But now, today, we're speaking about something that we do have some mastery and control over. Our personal lives. Our connection to God. Our goodness, or the lack thereof. Right? How do we deal with being down on ourselves caused by our own personal failings, spiritual failings? We're not talking here about failings in business. We're not talking about failings in things that you have no control over. Business, not necessarily you have control over. So that's not the area of discussion. Things that we have complete control over ourselves. My cogitated, meditated thoughts, my speech, my actions, and we can have spiritual failings. We do. And even if we don't have complete failings, just the very fact that we have, these challenges, they can bring us down. More of that actually in the next chapter. So when you're brought down, when you have anxiety, when you have a sadness about your spiritual state, how do you deal with that? Well, first of all, you might think, well, what do you mean? Shouldn't I feel bad that if I said something bad to someone? But first of all, whatever we need to correct with another human being, we have to correct with them. We're not talking about the corrections you need to make with another individual. Of course you have to do that. You hurt somebody, you have to make it right. We're not talking about that. We're talking about how do you deal with your feelings, your being down about that. Oh, I did it again. Stupid me. and you feel lousy about yourself. I'm sure those words you've said to yourself. Not only I've said it, we've all said it. But it's not about saying that, actually. That's not the issue. Well, because we're going to touch more of that later. It's more about being the downer of it, the anxiety that it might produce, the sadness that it might produce. That is the question. So, the Alter Rebbe explains. If this is coming at a time like now learning Tanya, where you're supposed to be focused, and some, maybe I aroused in the words that I said, some feelings, oh yeah. No. It shouldn't be there then. It needs to be discarded, that thought, that feeling. The thought, at least. Right? Why? Because you're learning Tanya. Or any mitzvah that you're doing. You got to serve God with joy. So the fact that that feeling comes to you now is a sign that it's not coming from a good place. So the first thing we need to know in the 5 steps that we will enumerate, as the Alter Rebbe explains, is you got to know where it's coming from. You might think that this is a holy feeling. And, feel good about the fact that you're feeling down on yourself because of your spiritual failings. Well, again, first point is, when's this coming? Be aware of that. Oh, it's during your divine service to God? Well, then it's, at that time, you got to serve God with joy and gladness of heart. Okay, so then how about if it's coming during business hours, right? During your worldly affairs. Maybe that's when the feeling is coming of sadness, of anxiety, again, over your spiritual failings. Heavenly matters. Heaven matters, right? So, and again, this is something you have a control over. So maybe this is a good thing to have. The Alter Rebbe says an amazing thing. He says, no, this is not coming from a good place. That's the first thing, where is it coming from? He says this is coming from the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara. That's interesting. What's the proof? The Alter Rebbe says it's coming from the Yetzer Hara. These feelings of anxiety, these feelings of a downer, again, about things that I need to own. Because the Yetzer Hara wants you to feel lousy, because no person can feel bad about themselves. They have to get themselves out of that and feel good about themselves. You can't remain feeling lousy about yourself. Just doesn't work. But that's the Yetzer Hara working. That's the evil inclination. Wants to make you feel lousy about yourself. Why? Because then that will be the beginning of a spiral downwards. Because once you feel lousy about yourself, now I need to feel good about myself, so I'm going to seek something pleasurable to make me feel good. What do? Go to the fridge and look for something to eat to give me some pleasure, right? Or I'll put on a sitcom to make me laugh and feel good because I don't want to feel lousy about myself. In other words, this is the evil inclination working on us in order to, I'm feeling lousy about my spiritual, so then that must be a big mitzvah that I'm doing right now. No, it's not a big mitzvah. It's your evil inclination talking to you, trying to get a hold of you, because since a human being cannot feel bad about themselves, cannot feel depressed about themselves, down on themselves, they will have to find something to make them feel good, right? Like comfort food. I need to be comfortable in my own skin, so I have comfort food, or I have some movie to watch, or I have some other distraction that is going to bring me down a slippery slope. And the Alter Rebbe says further, how do we know that this is not genuine, feeling down on yourself, that it's not truly genuine, that it's really coming from the Yetzer Hara? Is because in the middle of your work, you're not focused on the love of God, that therefore the love of God, you now want to own your shortcomings and deal with it. That's not what happens in the middle of your business day, so to speak, your work or your mundane affairs that you're involved in. Because at that moment, you're kind of self-directed and not really focused on your relationship with God. The fact that at that moment you're not focused on your relationship with God is a proof that if it is about your relationship with God that's bringing you down, making you feel, out of sorts about yourself, that's coming from the evil inclination. It's a very powerful idea here that we need to incorporate in our lives. First, to be this point, be aware. Where is this coming from? When is it coming? Will give us an indication where it's coming from. You're learning Tanya now and you're feeling down on yourself. It's coming from the evil inclination. Now you have to have joy. You're in the midst of doing a mitzvah that you need to do full of joy. No. In other words, the feelings controlling us, we're not in control. So, so this is what you should say to yourself. This is step number 2. First is understanding, knowing where it's coming from. Is, okay, I recognize I have spiritual failings. Got it. I'm not going to deal with it now. It's not the appropriate time. Set aside a time for it, which means you're in control. The feeling isn't controlling you, but the issue you're in control of. Yes, I did something, whatever, or whether it's something that I did or it's just a general feeling of stuff that I gotta own in spiritual failings. Set aside a time for it to deal with it. Alter Rebbe often says, before you go to sleep, Kriya Shema, and other places he says. Here he doesn't elaborate. But whatever. Again, we're not speaking here about if you did something to another person. Another person, you got to deal with that person. Here we're talking about that aspect of owning it before God. So that's spiritual failing. If the failing includes what you've done to another human being, you've got to ask for forgiveness from that human being. That's not what the reference is here. The reference is about the feeling that you have of being down because of your spiritual state. So the second point is, give yourself a time to think about it, to deal with it, right? Set aside an opportune time when you are calm. Because usually when it comes to you, and this is another sign of how it's not coming from a good place, you're not dealing with it in a calm way. You have anxiety. You're feeling, you're probably even thinking about how you looked rather than how you are. Oh, I didn't look really good. Rather than, oh, I wasn't really good, right? So, first point, know where it's coming from. recognizing that it's coming not from a healthy place. Therefore, you want to be a master of it. You want to be in control. You want to deal with it because it needs to be dealt with. But in a opportune moment where you are calm in your mind and in your heart, and then you'll be able to deal with it. So then the third thing is, of course, deal with it. Meaning, have a genuine, here the Alter Rebbe uses the word bitterness, and we're going to explain a lot more of that in the next chapter. But suffice it right now, that bitterness means, as opposed to sadness brings you down, bitterness is about change. Bitterness into you. Bitterness about, the spiritual failing. Because that bitterness will then break your heart, and that with a broken heart, you'll be able to fix what needs to be fixed. Bitterness is alive. Sadness is dead. Anxiety is dead. Deadening, rather. Right? So the bitterness is about that remorse that you have about whatever you need to own and then to fix it. That's step number 3. Step number 4, you dealt with it, remove it from your heart now, the sorrow that you've had. No more broken heart. Why not? Because the mainstay, the main attitude, the main disposition is joy, simcha. You got to come back to that. So you need to remove it from your heart and believe with perfect faith that God has abundantly pardoned you. As we say 3 times a day in davening, Hamar b'lislayach, that God is abundantly forgiving, which the Alter Rebbe explains in the third part of Tanya. Abundantly means you asked 1,000 times for forgiveness. God's forgiving you like it's the first time. So that's step number 4. Remove it. You've dealt with it. Don't hold on to it. You can't hold on to that. Why not? Because that means you don't have faith in God that He's forgiving. And furthermore, then the 5th step is now replace that from sadness in the sense of, ownership or the bitterness that we had. Replace it with real joy. Why? Because you've worked it through. You've cleansed. 5 steps. First, know where it's coming from. That feeling that it is most likely, unless you were davening really well, and in the middle of that davening, because you're kind of heart place in the heart. So, you arouse the feelings in your heart. So, and then that feeling comes of you're not really, then that's one thing. But it's in the middle of learning Tanya or middle of a mitzvah that you got to do with joy or even your business. You're in the middle of your mundane affairs. It's not coming from a good place. It's coming from the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara. So recognize where it's coming from. Then be a master of it, appoint a time to deal with it. That means you're in control. You're dealing with it in a calm mind, not with anxiety or a downer. Third thing is you're dealing with it with a broken heart, with the bitterness, whatever you got to deal with. Dealt with it. Remove it from your heart and have perfect faith that God is forgiving. He's forgiving now. Come back to real joy. Greater joy. A joy that comes from the downer, which means it's a true joy and a much greater joy. A joy that comes from that darkness. Powerful. I know now that. What do you know, folks? Powerful stuff the Alter Rebbe is teaching us. Okay. All right, Stuart, great. He said he really needs this now. Okay, Batya, I know now that when I act, think, and speak in a way that I'm ashamed, sad, and disappointed in myself, about myself, I have to acknowledge that the emotions and when it occurs and where it's coming from, the Yetzer Hara, or Yetzer Tov. Usually it's unlikely it's coming from the Yetzer Tov, by the way. The Yetzer Hara will go on a downward spiral of bad choices to pleasure itself, exactly, whereas the Yetzer Tov will be aware when it comes and set aside time to deal with those negative emotions, make resolve with oneself, to address the emotions and do better, replace those negative emotions with positive ones. So it's not, well, first deal with it, and then, exactly, very good. TJ, I know now that I need, by the way, whoever can come on and would like to share now, that would be amazing. To be aware of and mindful of where our feelings come from and when they are feeling down on our spiritual shortcomings, and that we need to set aside a time to deal with and address those feelings and own our shortcomings before God, and that when we work through it, we should be joyous and let go of those feelings, because we should recognize that God forgives us. Excellent. Very good. David, I know now that this down feeling I get, I can know where it's coming from the negative place, the Yetzer Hara, based on the time it is coming during the learning or the business dealings, and that when I need to push it aside for that moment, we need to serve Hashem with joy. Very good. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So do I have someone that's ready to come on? Michael? Another effort. Hopefully it will bear fruit. Oh, Michael, you made it on. Thank you for joining. Oh, there's feedback. Still feedback, I think. You're breaking up. You're breaking up. Turn down your volume, maybe that might help. Can you try now? People asking about the replay of this. Yes, you can. Again.
Thank you.
No, it's not working, Michael. Maybe try again. Go off and turn down the volume, perhaps. The volume, I think.
It seems to be working now.
Now it's working. Oh, excellent. What did you do so we should know for the future?
It worked this time. I pressed the button. My phone's on the side, and it just seemed to work, and then had a bunch of lag time. That's about it, Rabbi.
Okay.
There's still.
All right. Glad it's working. So please share with us something.
Well, I have a personal prayer that I say daily. God of goodness, God of light, help me put it right. Seems to fit your lesson today. So thank you very much, Rabbi.
Thank you
And
for
thank you for
joining.
having me.
Beautiful. God
You as
God
well.
bless you.
You too,
All
sir.
day. Wow.
I'll let you sign me off and I'll continue listening to you.
I don't know. I'm not even certain how
Okay,
to do
I'll
that.
X out here and see if you can have somebody else come along. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
joining.
Thank you.
All right. It worked. So, thank you, Michael. The YouTube station is Tanya Rabbi. Just go on YouTube and type in Tanya Rabbi and subscribe. Okay. And then you'll be able, first of all, you'll be able to get this at all times. Also, this will still continue to be on Chabad.org and also on my Facebook page, Rabbi Ronnie Fine, and also in Chabad Zichron. So you can get that. All right, folks. Anybody else would like to come on, share something? That's very nice, Michael. I know why it didn't work in the beginning, and then it did. Hey, technology. It seems to be out of control. Or at least I can't figure out how to control it. Okay. So do we have anybody else? Lisa. Stephanie. Daisy. Erica. Well, Erica's been on, but you have something to share, by all means. TJ. Rena. Okay. Ten rabbis that show when you search YouTube, but not me, and you put in the words Tanya Rabbi, so then put in my name, Rabbi Ronnie Fine. Okay, let's try that. Yeah, try one of those two, it should work. Oh, Diane. Okay, let's see if this will work. And might be a first, having two people on the same day. Oh, it's working, Diane.
Yay! And I'm on my iPad, so that's
And
good.
you're on your iPad. Okay, so iPad works. And there's no feedback over here because is the volume. Oh,
I got my
headset.
yes.
Okay. Yeah, an important good. Can you share something with us, Dana? Please share with us.
I'm waiting for feedback.
Do you hear me?
I just wanted to, yes, I can hear you. There is a little delay. So I just wanted to thank you for the 5 steps. I wrote them down and it puts things into a perspective, a better perspective of how to deal with any sadness.
Right. And remember that the sadness we're talking about here is specifically about our failings.
Yes.
Of things that come, from heaven that we spoke about yesterday that we don't have control. These are things that we have control. And we think that, oh, if I have control of it and I feel down about it, so hey, I must be a good person for that.
Yes.
Right? And here the Alter Rebbe is saying, no, actually, no, that's really coming from the wrong side, not from a good side. Yeah. Okay, beautiful. All right.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing. God bless you. Have a
Thank you. Thank you. You too.
All the best.
How do I get out of here now?
I don't know. There must be an X or something.
I don't see an X.
You don't see. Press on. Maybe press on the same place where you came in, and maybe that will give you a way out.
No.
Aha. Okay. We need a 5-step manual for this. Everything needs a manual in life, right? So this needs a manual. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to say goodbye to everybody together with Diane on the screen.
Okay.
Wishing everybody a wonderful day. A reminder that that myeshiva.ca is happening today between 12 and 1:30, as it does every day, Monday through Friday. And we wish you a great day, and look forward that you'll join us continuing our journey together. All the best. God bless you all.
Bye.